A very good afternoon to one and all present over here for this interactive policy dialogue. I'm Abhinav and working as a policy manager at LexQuest Foundation. I feel extremely honored to host this session. We have with us the Chief Operating Officer of LexQuest Foundation, Ms. Tanya Chandra. Welcome, ma'am. And Mr. Anchit Quatra, owner of Asian Delights. Today we will be discussing the most important, a very important topic, that is animal agriculture and food policies in India. And we'll try to understand some key elements regarding the same. I request the participant to send their question through the chat box. They can send us their questions, and once all our delegate members done with their speeches, then we can take up those questions. So over to you, Tanya.
Okay, thank you, Abhinav. Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me absolutely clearly. If not, feel free to tell me in the chat box. So I will start out with a presentation which is based on LexQuest Foundation's research on the very important topic that Abhinav just introduced to all of you. And I think I'll start with that. Once I'm done with it, it's just a short presentation. We have also worked on policy suggestions based on our research on this topic. I'll be discussing those in brief, and thereafter I'll take up your questions. So let's start with the slide, Shubha. Next slide, please. All right. It's talking about animal agriculture and the reliance of meat. So while dairy sector, the poultry farming, they remain equally important, what is the most significant part of animal agriculture everywhere across the globe, including India, is meat production. In fact, in terms of India, we consume less milk, less meat, and most of the meat that we produce is used for export. So that means that it's a very important source of income for the government and for a lot of people involved in the trade of the same. Next slide, please. As is evident here, meat production over the years has only been increasing. And across the globe, that's true for everywhere. One of the major reasons for that is also because on the demand side of it, meat is considered an important source of nutrients for everyone, and it's cheaper as well. Therefore, not just the supply, but also the demand for meat has been increasing across the globe. We'll go to the next slide now. Speaking of environmental ramifications and strain on natural resources when we talk about animal agriculture. So whether it's greenhouse gases, whether it's to do with the amount of water that we use, everything, and also the amount of biodiversity loss that occurs because of the grazing fields and because of the fields that are used to cultivate plants that are used to feed animals. The economic cost, the environmental cost of it remains huge. I'll go to the next slide now. Speaking of the elephant in the room, cruelties. This is an important aspect because even as consumers, a lot of times we're not aware of how are we producing so much milk, meat, and poultry farming. So for instance, in India, all these sectors are equally significant. Yet the kind of practices, whether it is to do with artificial insemination of animals, whether it's the way they're treated in cages, everything is highly unacceptable. But this is something that our food policies have to start considering now, because it's not just that the animals go through cruelty. That's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is at the end of the consumer. The consumers aren't getting the best quality products because they will have health consequences if they are manipulated hormonally. Okay, so Shubham, turns out there's some problem with my sound. 1 second, I can read chats. Can everyone hear me clearly? Because somebody says that it's freezing. If Shubham, if you can look into it, if you can hear me clearly, then I'll continue with this. Okay, all right. So it's clear for some people. So for those it's not clear for, I hope it's to do with your net connection. I'm really sharing the presentation with you. So don't worry about that. All right, great. If it's clear for some people, so I'll continue with it. So you can later mail us if you need the slideshow. We will share it with you, so don't worry about that. Okay, talking about economic output and why are we so dependent on animal agriculture. In a country like India, rain-fed farming is what most of our our farmers resort to, because rain is the only source for crop production. And when rains fail, we are all aware that there is a problem with there's droughts that happen, and that leads to a lot of farmers suicide. We have heard of such cases. Under such circumstances, animal agriculture comes as a boon for our rural livelihood opportunities. So everyone relies on it because it serves as a very important and risk-free source of livelihood for such farmers, is why the huge dependency economically speaking. Next slide. And when we're talking about the kind of production India sees, so I already told that in terms of meat production, we are big. Same goes for milk. We are in fact the biggest producers and consumers of milk across the globe. Same goes for meat and poultry production, and even seafood production and exports. So all of this is a very important part of our economy, not just within the country for consumption and for rural livelihood, but also in terms of the kind of foreign exchange and the money that we accrue from other nations through this. Next slide, please. Then, of course, comes the question of non-food products. And it's India, we have all heard how much Himalayan honey is sought after. Same is true for the kind of silk that India produces, and leather and wool. But the way animals are treated, the kind of, again, hormonal injections that they have to go through, and the way the sector also has consequences for the environment, it's huge, and our food and agriculture policies haven't been looking at it so far. So this is a crucial aspect that we must note. Next slide, please. So talking about all of this, where do we look when we are looking at sustainable and cruelty-free food choices? So what you see on your screen here are examples of what US and UK companies in these countries have come up with sustainable, cruelty-free, and environmentally more sustainable products in terms of the kind of water that is used, the kind of greenhouse gases that are produced. It's significantly lower. So it's not that other countries haven't been able to achieve such sustainable food products, because our populations will keep increasing. We'll have to continue catering to their food needs in the coming years as well. Is why it is very important that we look at these opportunities, and maybe India can also now start modeling and looking at alternative food choices. Next slide, please. And when we're talking about this, we all must have heard of veganism by now, because it's all over the place in India and in other countries too. It's a big movement. And some people think it's just a diet plan, but veganism is considered, in fact, a philosophy, the basis of which is the fact the medical research would suggest that plant-based diet is in fact healthier for an individual. And also philosophically speaking, veganism suggests that no form of cruelty or exploitation of any animals, not just for our food, but for household products and everything else. Talking about animal welfare policies, and when we have to compare a developed country to a country like ours. So in developed countries, for instance, the US, the farmers they resort to mechanized farming. They have access to huge fields, huge subsidies, even from the end of the government. And rain-fed agriculture is not what your US farmer depends on, right? As opposed to our farmers. They, like I already said, there's landlessness and there's rain-fed, and that's all we depend on. Hence, for them, of course, switching to and talking about animal welfare policies in terms of animal agriculture is easier, as has been so far. When it comes to India, because of the fact that we are heavily reliant on this sector to give alternative solutions to our farmers, it is the fact that it remains that it already takes a backseat at this point in time. And then we come to, when we look at the animal welfare policies in India, what's significant to note here is that whatever policies exist on ground so far are only to do with a very mild penal provisions, which only talk about animal welfare in terms of not being cruel to animals. Nothing there in our policy so far that talks about animal agriculture and the harmful practices in terms of the quality of food, or in terms of how the animal is treated, the environmental consequences. None of it has been considered so far in our food policies. Even if new rules and policies keep coming in, they are only to do with the fact that we are trying to market our products better, and again, accrue a lot more economic benefits out of it, and that's about it. So yes, it's important to know that animal agriculture has not been addressed in our policies so far. Talking about the policy suggestions at our end, so all the research that I quoted, so we came up with that, we worked on that, and apart from that, before coming up with these policy suggestions, we also delved in deeper and we talked to a lot of stakeholders working in this sector, in the food industry, in the animal agriculture sector, and we have come up with these set of suggestions that we believe that the government must start looking at immediately. First one in line here is about protection against exploitation under animal agriculture. Penal provisions, the ones that currently exist, do not recognize animal agriculture per se as a culprit. As a result, use of antibiotics, animals are fed on that to increase the meat production, all the meat production. And it is equally harmful, not just for the animal and the environment, but for the consumers, because you and I don't even know as consumers what consequences they have for our health. So high time that we have strict penal provisions talking about and addressing this concern in the animal agriculture sector. Another very important policy suggestion at our end is that we need to start diversifying our crop yield rather than completely making our farmers depend on livestock and animal agriculture. How can we do that? That can be done by, there are examples of plants like hemp and flax, where every single part of that plant can be marketable. So economic outputs and benefits are plenty if you look at the right plants to go for, diversify and give subsidies. So then that way our farmers can lower their dependency only on livestock production. Next slide. This is another very significant point in terms of India, that we need to look at our packaging and marketing of animal products. So we have seen that if there's an animal, a non-vegetarian product has a red dot, a vegetarian product has a green dot. But it's high time, given the kind of, or the origin of our animal products, that we have a third distinction now. We should be distinguishing between plant-based or vegetarian product as opposed to animal-based vegetarian product, because that somehow then passes the bait to the consumer. The consumer can then choose better when they somehow know, looking at that marking, that okay, this is the source of my food. Now I have a better freedom of choice and transparency too. Next slide. Speaking of alternative food diets, so high time that the government also starts promoting plant-based food diets through campaigns. We all have seen ads where the government promoted consumption of more milk, consumption of more eggs. We have seen these ads. So we believe that in the same line, we can also start promoting alternative diets which are better for the environment, better for the individual, and better for the animals, of course, through such government campaigns. Also, another important factor, I know a lot of researchers have joined us today. So yeah, research funds, we all know the significance of this. We have to produce quality research, because alternative animal products, if they are looking at in other countries, there's a lot of research that is going in that, because everyone has admitted to the need of it. In India, we are yet far behind on that front. So that is something the government should definitely look at this point in time. Next slide. And this one is again very significant, because dairy, like I said, we are the highest producer and consumer of milk across the globe, and we only want to quadruple our production in the coming years. So the milk production in India works through cooperatives, which are a group of farmers. But because Amul and Mother Dairy, they have become really bigger organizations now. So there's a lot more commodification, lot more exploitation, lot more exploitation of even the environmental resources. To do away with that, we suggest that why not give the power back to the farmers who own these cattle, and we can concentrate on smaller cooperatives such that they can also fulfill the local needs for dairy products and can maintain quality without injecting antibiotics or hormonal injections to the animals. And at the same time, you can do away with the need of price, because eventually it will help itself. So that brings me to the end of my slideshow. And if you have questions, I will start taking them. And over to you, Abhinav. We can start doing that now. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Tanya. Such an informative session. It was like we can understand like how this animal farming and the policies that you have researched is pretty informative for all the participants. Looking at your slide, there are a few questions which I should be taking up. So if you look at the data of the UN Food and Agriculture Organization, there we can see a stark increase in the consumption of meat across the globe. and
Mm-hmm.
popularly called the hunger of meat. So, can you
Mm.
please elaborate this idea?
So, um, the need for meat, the hunger for meat, what the concept that FAO, like you said, has come up with, it is to do with the fact that when we compare, uh, the rate and the prices, the food policies as they exist, the prices of vegetables and milk in the sector, it is a lot more to do with, it is more expensive, the vegetables and fruits that are available in the market with the same nutrients, and meat is much cheaper but gives you the same nutrients. So people go for meat. Also now with the population increasing everywhere, and also the fact that populations also keep getting prosperous and wealthier in a lot of countries. India is a very good example. As the middle class expands and they have more money to spend on household and food consumption items, people choose dairy, people choose meat, and they choose poultry, because yeah, that is way more viable and affordable than vegetables and fruits with the same nutrients, which means that a plant-based diet is then, because of our food policies, way more expensive, which is why the concept that you talked about, hunger for meat, it's increasing because it's good, it tastes good, and it's good for health too, generally speaking. The nutrients, you get them all through meat. And because mostly our research suggests it's to do with the food pricing across the countries. Abhinav, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
So basically, all we can understand how important that is. And one more question, like you discussed about the Amul and the other dairies, right? So
Mm-hmm.
don't you think India, which already experienced the white revolution, and cooperatives like Amul and others trying to increase the production of milk by artificial insemination in cattle, and how far do you think it is justified, the cruelty being done on the cattle? So how far this is justified? What is your point of view?
I mean, there cannot be a personal opinion on this, right, Abhinav? We all know, I mean, the kind of cruelty, kind of extreme
Mhm.
measures only to
Yeah.
keep increasing the production is not correct. And like I have said repeatedly, it is also not right, because as consumers, we're not aware of how our animal food products are being accrued, what the animals are going through. So even if I have to do away with the sentimental argument of animals being sentient beings and being treated just as the rest of us, even the health consequences of milk, which is not pure and fresh, but is injected with a lot of chemicals and hormonal manipulations. And as consumers, our policies, they don't inform us about it. We don't know how it's being, the origin of it. So it's completely
Yeah.
unjustified. They just make us look at the glossy picture. So none of this is justified for sure. I wouldn't comment more on that because this is not a political or a personal opinion. It's to do with what's wrong with our policies.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, that's true. That's true. So now tell me, discuss the impact of fishery over marine ecosystem, and how are we still neglecting it or taking steps to improve the condition? And the second part of the question is, how far is India, which is an agrarian nation, devoted to sustaining animal farming, especially livestock farming, through its policies?
So I'll answer the second part of your question first, that as an agrarian economy and nation, how far can we sustain livestock farming? So if you see the consequences of livestock farming, the way we currently do it on our environment, it won't be sustainable because we are just exploiting the resources which are anyway limited. Water is limited. Global warming is increasing manifold, and India remains one of the more polluted countries than compared to a lot of others. Our grazing lands are, in case of India, if you read a lot of research reports, we don't have many left. So in its present form, I'm aware and I know that our farmers depend on it. So it's very significant that a livestock production, of course it is, but the way it's going on, it's soon not going to be very beneficial for rural livelihood, because resources that it uses and exploits are going to be scarce, and there won't be enough left for a poor farmer to depend on this sustainably if we don't switch our policies and don't help them switch to better sustainable options. And with regard to the fisheries questions that you asked, so yes, seafood is something that again India exports a lot, produces a lot, because a large part of our country is a coastal region, and we have freshwater fish too. So across the globe, including in India, seabed trawling is one of the major methods how they catch a lot of fish, because of which in one go, if you use a trawler, it does away with a lot of habitat of sea animals living at the bed of the sea. That's one. Apart from that, there have been methods which like cyanide treatment, which is to stun the fish, and through that they get a good catch. We have lost a lot of species of fish because of overexploitation of the sector. And